So, sketching is one of those things that can feel really overwhelming, especially for beginner artists. And it's something that a lot of people struggle with or just avoid altogether. And I know because that was me. I completely avoided sketching for years, and I was a professional working artist. Well, a graphic designer, illustrator, that sort of thing. And I did not know how to sketch. And when I did try and sketch, it ended badly. But once I learned how to break it down into really simple steps, sketching became enjoyable and fun and really easy. Today in this video, I am sharing my 3-step method for making sketching easy and fun. We'll talk about how you can train your artist eye and why you might feel lost if you're not following a tutorial. You'll also learn how you can begin to develop your own style through sketching and avoid all those messy beginner mistakes and wasting a bunch of time. Okay, let's get started. The first step to making sketching easier is to see like an artist. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably like, Sam, what does that even mean? What are you talking about? And basically, seeing like an artist is a way to observe the world through an artist's eye. And this can look like, I don't know, maybe if you're walking your dog and someone sees a tree, a regular person might think, oh, that's a really pretty tree, and just continue on with their walk. But if you are an artist or you happen to be with an artist and they linger a little bit longer looking at the scene, it might be because in their head they're looking at it thinking, okay, this is a really pretty tree. And that tree is basically an oval shape with a little long rectangle at the bottom. And the sun is behind me, and that's my light source. So it's casting this big shadow onto the grass, and that's a much darker, more saturated green. And then some of the leaves are bright yellow near the top, and then these ones are more orangey yellow, and there's a horizon line. I'm going to use atmospheric perspective, and just it gets there's a lot going on up in an artist's brain if you happen to see them staring at the leaves for a little bit longer than most people. And this is a lot of information. I am like, don't blame you if you're like, what are you even talking about right now? I am so overwhelmed. So let's reel it back a little bit. And if you could only take away one thing from this video, I would say try to see the world through basic shapes. And that basically just means looking at everyday objects around you and breaking them down into very fundamental shapes, like circles, squares, triangles, things like that. Okay, so that's all great in theory, but let's actually do some sketching practice and put this concept into play. So I have this cute little teapot that's hand painted, and I thought, this might be fun to draw. So the first thing I'm gonna do is look at this teapot and try and see the basic shapes that it is. A really easy way to find the basic shapes in your objects is to take a quick picture of them or pull pictures that you find from the internet that you want to draw, and then either pop them into Procreate or print them out at home and put a piece of tracing paper on top. And then from there, you're just gonna trace the basic shapes. I also want to say a real quick PSA because there are a lot of art police out there that are like, oh my god, tracing, don't do that, that's cheating. And I want to 100% say that tracing is not cheating. It is how you learn. And especially in what we're doing today, we're not even going to use what we traced as our final sketch. We're basically just using this tracing part to learn the proportions, like how big or small something is, and then learn the shapes in relation to them. So the first thing I'm gonna do is look at this teapot and try and see the basic shape. I can see that the base body of it could fit into a rectangle shape like this. And then once I have that rectangle, I can kind of see that there's like the top of the teapot, and that's about a third of the way up. So I'm just gonna draw a little line in my rectangle. From there, I see that the spout, I could also fit that into a rectangle. And so I'm just gonna draw a rectangle that's, I don't know, like in the middle, halfway up the side of my first rectangle. And then within that, there's kind of a, I don't know, a square, a little bit longer of a square. I guess it's another rectangle. We're working in rectangles here, I guess, you guys. And then another one for the spout, And then there is a triangle of negative space in the mouth of the spout. And in addition to trying to find the basic shapes of things themselves, the shapes of negative space is really useful and could be a really good tool to help you train your artist eye. And negative space just means the space that something's not there. So all of this white background is negative space, and then the teapot is positive space. So I see a little triangle in the spout. You can also use negative space to measure the distance between two objects, like I'm doing with this rectangle here. And then I'm just going to continue tracing the shapes that I see, making sure that I keep it really simple and not overdoing it or getting too into the details. And then there's this arch up here for the handle. And then I'm just going to draw a series of ovals for the top. And that kind of basically is the breakdown of these very basic shapes for this teapot. And we're basically going to pull this little sketch that we did off to the side, and we're going to use that as our map to draw our own teapot from memory. So if I were to draw this again, I remember first and foremost that there is a nice little rectangle right here, and that is my teapot. And about a third of the way up was where the top of the teapot was, so I'm drawing that guideline. And then the spout was over here on the left that fits in a little rectangle, and the spout itself was made up of three little rectangles. And I'm just kind of roughing this in, like it really doesn't need to be perfect or exactly what I sketched the first time. Honestly, I think the more different it is, the better, because it's more unique and more you. And then I remember up here at the top, there was like a series of ovals with just some lines, and then the curving part of the bottom of the top, the bottom of the top. And the sides of my teapot are basically this rectangle, and I'm making tapering lines. And then you can curve the bottom, and like just because this fits in a rectangle shape doesn't mean you need to take a rectangle all around. You're kind of adding and subtracting from your original shapes to make them your own basic custom shapes, I guess. This sketch is really just a little map so you can remember where things are in proportion to other things. And I think that's why using the negative space technique to draw a shape like this, where there is no space or no shape there, it helps you measure the distance between other things. So I'm just roughing in the top of this handle, and I think I'm going to make mine a little bit thinner than the reference photo because I feel like that other one was very thick and it was a little bit too much visual weight at the top. And you can kind of see how doing that little practice teapot where I traced over a photo really showed me how I can build my own teapot. And now that we have our own basic sketch, we can start to move into phase two, which is to stylize it. And this is where having your own art style comes from. But don't worry if you feel like you don't have an art style yet. That just comes through time and through practice. And these foundational skills that you're learning right now are how you can put that into practice. So as I said before, we were doing the tracing part of this to learn the proportions of it. And one way that you can develop your own style and make something uniquely your own is to stretch and skew and play with the proportions. So for me, I like things when they're cute and very stylized. I'm not a realism person, so I'm not going to try and render exactly what I see. I want to stylize this teapot and make it squatty and fat. Like when I think teapot, I think about Beauty and the Beast and like Chip and that sort of teapot. And she is a very stout teapot. So I'm gonna draw this and I'm gonna just squish up the bottom of my teapot and kind of fatten it out. So now it looks more squatty and cute. This is called a refined sketch, by the way. It's like where you sketch on top of your sketch. That's why you can see like how I erased my sketch just a little bit and I'm kind of just tracing over it, but I'm smoothing out the lines in certain areas, like especially on the spout, so it doesn't look like just rectangles. But overall, I'm still keeping those basic shapes and just kind of playing with the proportions a little bit and customizing it to my personal style and how I like to see art that I make. Now that we have a very strong foundation, we have the right shapes, we have the right proportions, now we can start adding details to our sketch. And I feel like this is where a lot of beginner artists kind of go wrong is right when they're trying to draw something, they're looking at it and they're adding all the details before they get those foundational shapes and foundational proportions in. So like, for example, if I was first starting out and I was trying to draw a cat, I would look at a cat and be like, that's a really furry thing. I'm gonna draw a bunch of fur. I'm gonna just like spend hours rendering fur. And at the end of the day, when I finished my cat, it didn't look like a cat, and that's because I didn't have the correct shapes and proportions, and I spent a lot of time focusing on the details up front, rendering hair, trying to get the cat's eyes right, trying really hard and not going anywhere, basically. It's like that old saying that I don't love, but it's when you try to make up a pig, like putting a lot of makeup on a pig, which is a sad saying. I wish there was a better one, but because pigs are cute. But yeah, adding details is another great place for you to add your own artistic voice or your own style into the mix. And you can do this by looking at your reference photo and trying to decide what parts you want to leave and what parts you want to bring with you. For this, I really like the flowers and I like a lot of the like shapely details, but I feel like there's a lot going on in this teapot. It's very intricate, and I'm okay with that because I enjoy spending time drawing details, but not to this level. So I'm just gonna simplify these flowers and do basically a lot less of them so I can make them bigger and make them stand out more on the teapot. And that is just a personal choice for me. Maybe you are someone who wants to render realistically, and so you're gonna draw all of the flowers and all of these fun little doodles and stuff on the handle and everywhere else. And that's totally fine. That's up to you and that's your style and this is your art and you get to choose how it goes. So those are my 3 simple steps to making sketching easy. And I think the biggest, most important one is learning to train your eye. Because that is something that I feel like a lot of beginners kind of skip over too quickly and they spend a lot of time following tutorials, but and I'm not saying tutorials are bad. I love tutorials. I think they can help you build skills. I think they can help you build confidence. But I do sometimes feel like it's a little bit of a false confidence because the moment you try and step out on your own, you might be like, I have no idea what to draw. I don't know how to draw anything. I have no idea where to start or what I'm doing. And it can feel really scary and overwhelming. And that's basically because the artist who was teaching that tutorial, they did this entire process of stylizing, finding the basic shapes, getting the right proportions, telling you how to do everything. They made all of those artistic choices for you, and they are just teaching you how to do these certain skills. But if you do want to develop your own artist eye, I would definitely say draw from life. Just look at things around you and try and figure out what shapes they are. Like, this can all be simplified into one long rectangle and then divided up into 3 rectangles. A little tiny one here, one in the middle, and then this rectangle here. And then there's little lines on this. So really look at the things around you and try and figure out their basic shapes and what details you want to bring and leave. And that's how you can develop your own artist eye through sketching. I really hope you enjoyed this video and that it helped you make sketching way less scary and feel a lot easier. I just want to say don't lose hope. I know it can be just the most frustrating when you're learning how to sketch, and I know it's it feels like you're sinking a lot of time into it and things may not be turning out how you want them to, just know that you're not alone. I did that for years and years and years. I even would just make art that didn't have any sketching at all. So I would just like paint or do collage art, things that did not involve drawing or sketching. But once I decided to face my fear head on and really focus on learning how to sketch, I feel like that opened up a lot of doors for me as far as what I could draw and render. All right, if you would like to see more videos on how to sketch, you should check out these two videos right here. I hope they're right here. Not really sure. Still figuring out where to put them. All right, made it awkward. Time to go. Bye.